I was 13 when everything changed. Morning began like any other. My parents joking in the kitchen, the scent of coffee drifting through the house. By evening, the laughter was gone. The lights were still on. The door was left unlocked. But they had vanished. No message, no explanation. Just silence. Police surrounded the house that night, their flashing lights painting the walls. Neighbors gathered outside whispering, looking at me like I was already broken. Pity was all they could offer. Several days later, an envelope appeared in the mailbox. No stamp, no sender. Inside was a single sentence in my father's handwriting. Go to your uncle. So I did. Uncle Victor was the kind of man whose presence walked into the room before he did. Expensive suits, polished shoes, elegant watches that glinted under soft light. He welcomed me without hesitation. He provided a home, meals, schools, tutors. But kindness wasn't what he offered. It was power wrapped in care. He always said, the world doesn't pay you for being good. It pays you for what you can control. Instead of bedtime tales, he gave me financial reports. Instead of lessons about empathy, he explained leverage. Stock markets replaced storybooks. Assets replaced emotions. I followed his every word for years, until I found the truth. I was 28, cleaning out boxes of my mother's belongings stored in Victor's basement. Inside one of her old jewelry cases was a small rusty key. I almost threw it away, but something about it felt intentional, left for me. It opened a storage unit in a forgotten facility several towns away. Inside was a stack of photo albums, a leather folder, and files marked by the police. My parents hadn't left. They'd been reported missing, assumed dead, and the primary suspect in their disappearance was Uncle Victor Hale. I sat on the cold concrete floor, flipping through the documents. Bank records, property transfers, signatures. My parents' wealth had been drained and redirected to him. He hadn't saved me. He had taken everything from them, from me. I didn't scream or cry. I started planning. Over the next 7 years, I became the perfect student of his teachings. I joined a corporation, worked quietly, learned every secret, every weakness. He praised me, called me the child he never had. He taught me how to create false identities, offshore accounts, shell companies, tools meant for protection. I used them to build my revenge. By 30, I had quietly taken control of nearly 40% of his assets, buried under layers of legal fog that even his attorneys couldn't trace. 15 years after that first letter, I sat across from him at the same dining table where he once told me I was his legacy. He looked older, tired, almost fragile. He poured a drink, smiled proudly, and told me I reminded him of my father, strong, unyielding. You knew my father better than I did, I said. His smile faded just a little. I placed the leather folder on the table. He didn't touch it, but his eyes did. Inside were all the files I'd found, plus every record I'd gathered since. I told him everything was already in the hands of investigators, and every major financial publication. By morning, his empire, his name, his legacy would be dust. For the first time in my life, he looked afraid. I left without waiting to see what he'd do. By sunrise, the world knew his name for all the wrong reasons. Accounts frozen. Headlines everywhere. By evening, an arrest warrant. 3 days later, they found him alone in his penthouse office. Papers scattered, a gun beside him, and a letter with my name. It said only, "You learned well." I still don't know if that was meant as approval or condemnation. I don't know if I became what he shaped me into or what my parents tried to protect me from. But each night, before I sleep, I unfold the first note I ever received, my father's words. Trust your uncle. And I smile because I did, just long enough to end him.